Salutations everyone and welcome to What Mattered, the show where I tell you what mattered in the news this week. Crystal Pepsi is making a comeback. The other fantastic ideas from the past that I think we need to bring back next are the XFL and being able to smoke in public restaurants. That would just be fantastic. Every week, it seems, we're getting another trailer for a highly anticipated movie for next year. First, it was Batman vs. Superman and Civil War. This week is XMen Apocalypse, and next week is Fantastical Beasts and Where to Find Them. The Apocalypse trailer just dropped yesterday, and boy, did it have a lot for us for the first trailer. We got to see a lot of characters either making their reappearance in younger form, such as Storm or Jean Grey or Nightcrawler, and as well as some first-timers in Psylocke and Jubilee. Who saw Jubilee coming? But we got to see Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse. They obscured him a little bit, which, I mean, we already know exactly what he looks like. We've seen his face plastered on magazines and everything, and people like myself kind of ridiculing the design choices that they made for Apocalypse, since he's supposed to be a tall, intimidating, powerful, godlike being, and they made him look more like a kind of a goofy, short Ivan Ooze looking character. But I think they probably made some better looking changes within the film itself, and we got to see what the plot has in store for us. This is 10 years after Days of Futures Past, so we are in the 1980s now. And we got to see Professor Xavier without his hair at the end of the trailer, which was pretty neato to see. We got to see the 4 horsemen that Apocalypse chose, and it looks pretty epic in scope, and the fact that a lot is at stake in this film, and that Apocalypse is kind of the biggest threat that we have seen in these 9 X-Men films. That's right, this is the 9th X-Men film. Sony had their yearly PlayStation experience this past week, and it came out to a resounding very, very little. Like, where are the games, Sony? Where are the games? The last couple of years, you actually showed us some games and some new things and things that we wanted to see. This year, it was kind of like, VR, okay, that thing that's not catching on yet and nobody owns a headset for. That's cool, I guess, for 5 people, but where are the real games? We did get a few new announcements. We got to see Ni no Kuni 2, which will be a completely different story and completely different cast of characters from the first Ni no Kuni. So that looks like a very, very awesome game. And of course, a lot of people were waiting to see more information about Final Fantasy VII's remake, and there was a lot of information, a lot of surprises. The fact that they changed the combat system from turn-based, the fact that it's going to be multi-parts so that they don't have to cut down on any of the story, and the fact that they are expanding it. So this isn't just your run-of-the-mill remaster. This is like a straight-up remake. Like, they're taking the same story, but they're changing the combat system. Obviously, the graphics are generations ahead, and they're adding to it. And it's going to be in multi-parts, so it's not going to come out all at once. It's gonna be a multi-part thing. They're expanding upon the world, they're expanding upon the story, and they're changing the combat system. That was the biggest, actually, surprise for me. When I think Final Fantasy, and especially, you know, the Final Fantasy VII era, I think turn-based strategy, like, that's Final Fantasy in my head. Obviously, they've done, you know, more live third-person action Final Fantasy games in the past, so this isn't breaking new ground, but I thought there would have been a bigger uproar for that, not having played Final Fantasy VII as a child myself, but with how beloved I know that game and those characters are, I thought there would have been more of an upcry, but I think people are just so excited about all of the different possibilities that are available to them, and the new amazing looking graphics. And obviously Final Fantasy players are used to this kind of combat system before, but I think it was a big surprise that they were making this many changes to such a beloved game. But I think people seem to be okay with them so far because they get more Final Fantasy VII. The closeout announcement of PlayStation Experience this year was the announcement of another MOBA. Cool. The MOBA is called Paragon, and it just seemed rather underwhelming. Good sounding score, I mean, good looking graphics, but It's the exact same MOBA we've been seeing, made, every couple of months a new MOBA comes out, which some people might be, like a little bit jaded about. It's like, man, another MOBA, don't you know people are getting sick of this? Video games take a long time to make, so obviously this has been in development for years. When, like, MOBAs started becoming big, everyone started making their MOBAs, and now we're seeing them come out. So it's going to be a while before we start seeing the brakes being hit on the MOBA train, but they're still like the biggest games in esports right now. Like 2 of the top 4, probably 3 of the top 5. I don't know, but it's still huge. So companies are going to still try to make MOBAs because they think that they're going to sell and become huge in the esports arena, which is a possibility for every MOBA that comes out. But these MOBA characters in Paragon look like the recycled characters from every single other MOBA we've seen. Like, there's nothing new that this MOBA has showed us. I think to put yourself, out of the pack and separate yourself, you're gonna have to do something different. We're starting to see the first-person shooter MOBAs. 3 of those are coming out next year. And now we have this one. It looks exactly like all the other MOBAs. These characters are exactly the same, using the same weapons, having the same designs, looking exactly the same. They're just, a slightly different scenery. That's really the only change I see in this Paragon MOBA, but what do I know? This thing could be like the biggest game on PS4 a year from now, or whenever it comes out. Either way, just a disappointing PSX. The long gestating project of Iron Fist finally has an executive producer and showrunner for its Netflix series run. So it looks like that rumor of a 2-hour Netflix special seems to be less likely now, and he will be getting his own series within the Netflix Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have Jessica Jones that just came out recently, and we know that next year will be Daredevil Season 2, as well as Luke Cage. So I think we can expect 2017, spring, Iron Fist, and then fall, The Defenders. That's what I expect to happen, and seems the most likely outcome at this point. But I mean, they might feel like they have a hard time fitting Iron Fist within this universe, but I think they can do it. I mean, they've shown a good track record so far with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and what we've seen from and heard from Daredevil 2. Like, the executives are like super excited for that, and especially with the Punisher, who rumors had it where it's going to be replacing Iron Fist as getting his own series instead. But now Iron Fist finally has a showrunner, so we're going to start getting that character a lot more love, and that's really all we know. No release date or casting decisions, which I'm sure we'll start hearing probably in the springtime. Everyone's favorite canceled Star Wars game 1313 might be getting a resurrection, and in a recent interview with the powers that be over at Disney, which recently acquired Lucasfilm and then shut down the production of everything that they were doing, and then they got that Battlefront game out there in time for The Force Awakens. We know that other Star Wars games are being worked on right now. They have had Amy Hennig there for a while, which did a fantastic job in the Uncharted trilogy, so in Amy Hennig we trust. This Star Wars 13 was an Uncharted-esque Star Wars game based off of a young bounty hunter, and it looked amazing. That teaser footage that we saw at E3 a couple years ago just like had everybody pumped, and it looked like it was like going to be like the best Star Wars game ever. And then it got canned as soon as they got purchased by Disney. But according to, the interview, they don't want to throw away those assets. They want to do something with it. They aren't ruling it out, is what it seems like in this interview. They said, we're not going to throw that stuff away. We really like it a lot. And it sounds like they might, revisit those ideas, if not just continue 1313's production with probably some changes along the way. But if we can get 1313 back, or at least something like it, even if they change the story or the characters, it just looked phenomenal and amazing, and we need more fantastic Star Wars games because Battlefront is awesome, and there's just so many opportunities for making more Star Wars games throughout a variety of different genres, be it another Rogue Squadron or a third-person shooter like 1313. Anywho, that is what mattered this week. If you would like to know what matters in the future, you can hit the subscribe button. One of these videos comes out every single Saturday to tell you what mattered. Hope you all enjoyed. You can leave the comments on anything that I mentioned or didn't mention down below, and I will see you guys next time.